Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on the recent events that's happened in 2019 with Jussie Smollett and Jazime Barnes and the Covington kids, all of which were hate crimes. The first case was of Jazime Barnes. Jazime Barnes was a little girl who was shot by evil white racist. And the way the story went was the following. Her mother, LaPortia Washington, said that she was out with her children in the car, and while she was just stopped, a white man drove up to their car and just shot it up. And in the process, she tried to defend her children, but one of her children got killed, and that was Jazime Barnes, who was only 7 at the time of the shooting, and she was killed. And it quickly became a national story, international story, and the outrage against these evil white people was huge. People were calling for death threats against white people. People were calling for real action to be taken to find this white racist and put them behind bars or kill them. So it was amazing, the outrage, and the media really fed this outrage. So what happened was, though, when more details came out, the story kind of changed. So eventually the police actually caught the people that were involved with the shooting, and it turned out it was 2 black men. And not only were they just 2 random black men, but they knew LaPortia Washington, Jasmine's mother, and they were drug dealers. So probably what happened was, in the early morning, LaPortia Washington wanted to get some drugs. Probably this is what happened. This is my suspect. It's not proven yet, but this is probably what happened. She took her children. They were still wearing the pajamas. They didn't even have a chance to put on shoes. They were just sitting in the car with her. And she went to meet these drug dealers. And possibly something went wrong, and they decided to just shoot them out. They just shoot. And as a result, LaPortia Washington's daughter was killed. Now, to cover her own involvement in the case, LaPortia Washington, she blamed the easiest person to blame, blame white people. And it became the story that we know today. That was the first, and it was a shining example of white racism, but it was totally, completely false. The next story was the Covington boys, the Catholic school boys, and I covered many videos on the topic immediately the day that it happened even, and the facts were available at the time when the whole story broke. But yet the media deliberately framed the story as these Covington schoolboys had basically gone up to a Native American and were in his face and were basically making him feel very threatened by them. And they showed teary-eyed pictures of this Native American man who was saying how these boys were chanting, build the wall and racist slurs at him. But even at the time when this story broke, there was video that was available that showed the complete opposite. There was actually the Native man that was in the face of these young boys, and he was the one, his group were the ones that were saying, go back to Europe. And there was some definite racial slurs said towards these poor white boys. The only reason the narrative even had any merit to the media was the fact that the boys were wearing MAGA hats, Make America Great hats. And this was another shining example of evil white racism. And the media really ran with it. And this was like their big case. Oh, this proves how racist Trump supporters are. Now, the most recent story was the Jussie Smollett one, where Jussie Smollett, he said that he was out at 2 in the morning and it was minus 20 degree weather and in Chicago, and he went to Subway, and after eating at Subway, he was on his way home, still eating a sandwich, and these men approached him saying that it was MAGA country. And they basically started beating him up, and they put a noose around his neck, poured bleach on him, and he had to subsequently go to the hospital from his injuries. This was the narrative that he pushed. Now it turns out, today, it's been released that this didn't happen the way Jussie Smollett suggested it did. He knew the two men who actually committed the crime against him, and both of the men were black, and both of the men were hired by Jussie Smollett to put on this hoax hate crime. Now originally, when they planned the hoax, they planned to have it happen in front of a camera. However, the camera that they did the hoax in front of was not pointed the right direction, so it did not capture the incident. So basically, they did this whole staged event for the camera, but the camera wasn't even watching. And as the police investigated the thing, they could find that there was a whole bunch of glaring issues with it. First of all, who walks around at night carrying bleach and a noose? Just doesn't make sense. Also, there was just, it's not MAGA country when you're talking about Chicago, where Chicago voted overwhelmingly Democrat, like 85+% voted for Hillary instead of Trump. So it's not MAGA country. And this was in a primarily gay district of Chicago. So it just wasn't making much sense. The other thing was, it was just the way Jussie Smollett sort of reported the thing. He wasn't willing to divulge certain details that the police really wanted. For example, he didn't give his cell phone when they asked for that, because he was supposedly on the call with his manager during the incident, and that would be critical evidence to prove this actually happened to Smollett. But he was not forthcoming about giving his cell phone information. And there was just so many inconsistencies about Jussie Smollett's testimony that the police were really kind of confused by it, and they didn't really trust him. And after doing some investigation, they found the two men, both Nigerian men, and they found the receipts for the bleach and for the noose, and they also found video footage of the two men buying the stuff. And when they spoke to the men and questioned them, the men confessed to being paid by Smollett for having done this hoax hate crime. So what do we learn from all these hoax hate crimes? These are the best examples that the police can provide for why America is such a racist place, and why white people are the most racist of all the races, and the ones that are committing all these horrible hate crimes under President Trump. Now, what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that despite this being the best examples, well, the best examples are false. So if these are the best examples they can provide, that gives us real positive news about the state of America, that it isn't the racist place that the media is trying to portray it as. People are not the evil white overlords, white supremacists that they try to make us out to be. That white people are actually innocent, and actually, in most cases, good people. That these shining examples prove absolutely nothing towards the idea that there is white racists out there to hurt black people, hurt minorities. It just shows that maybe white America isn't as racist or at all racist towards the minorities. And this, to me, is a very positive thing. So hopefully the media will learn from this. I doubt it will, but hopefully it will learn that maybe pushing this narrative isn't going to pay. Now, probably they're going to move on to the next story. They always do this. They report it, it becomes huge headline news, and then when it proves to be a hoax, they just move to the next story. Hopefully they'll learn from this, because the Chicago police, in the case of Jussie Smollett, are not going to let this lie. They are really going to take this forward, and they're already charging him with fraud. So hopefully the media will learn from this, and hopefully the lawsuits that the Covington boys are doing right now, they're going to sue the media for, I think it's like $250 million. Hopefully, with all these things, the media will learn some lesson and will start reporting the real news, and that the United States and Western countries are not the racist places that they want to say that we are. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd like to hear your feedback on these stories. Which story really made you most upset with the media? And please comment below, and please like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. And bye for now.